Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shane. I'm the president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 193 of the funnel. Selling sales managers, yes or no? As always, head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel and subscribe, and we'll send you the show notes. No need to write down everything we say. We'll just send it to you. Okay, today you will learn working sales manager, selling sales manager. Is it ideal or a necessity? Promotion tool, driving success, and compensation alignment. Ideal or necessity? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about whether that's the ideal program or maybe it's a necessity based on cost or whatever. I think some people will tell you that it is ideal, that having a working sales manager, they never lose the feel for selling. And they're in the trenches. They're feeling it every day, so it makes them a better manager. I'd say that managing salespeople and selling are completely different job structures and job roles. And it does create a bit of an issue for someone who is in that role. So I would say that it's not ideal, especially when you're in a department where there is a leadership structure and you're the manager and you're responsible for making decisions. It puts you in an awkward spot with your people. However, sometimes it might be a small company or small division or startup, and cost is a consideration. That I can't have someone in a full-time management role. There's just not enough money to justify paying for that. So I get the best of both worlds. I take my best rep and I make them into a selling sales manager and I let them hire someone. And that's fine. And you can do that. I think your ultimate goal would be to get out of that role and make a change with that. But if you have to do it, if it's a necessity, I would suggest that you think long and hard about how you want to do it and begin to structure some things a little bit differently than maybe you thought. And we'll touch on some of that moving forward here. So let's talk about it as a promotion tool. Some people use it as a promotion tool. Hey, we need to develop their career more. They're asking and clamoring for more. This is a great way to give them more money. We can promote them into a sales management role. Again, that's, to me, it's not ideal. But generally it's used when companies promote someone to sales management. This is what they want to do. They don't want to lose that revenue and profit that this top contributor is bringing to the company. They don't want to lose them as a salesperson, so they add a few responsibilities in the management side and throw some compensation their way, and then boom, they're a sales manager. This is probably one of the hardest jobs you could ever do, because you're really, again, doing two different jobs. There is a push and a pull. Do I drive more sales? Because quite frankly, that's where I make the most of my money. How do I balance that against what I need to do for management? And I don't know that there's a whole lot of thought when it's used as a promotion tool to move someone up the food chain on the development of that person. How big is the team? Is it a small team or a big team? Have they been in a mentor role before? So let's take it back. If you're gonna do this, what I would suggest is a couple of things. One, it's a slow process. First, maybe they don't want the job. So let's talk about that. Sometimes it's like, well, we're making you sales manager. You're the rep here, and there's only 3 people on the team, and I need a manager, and I need to hire a 4th person, so I'm going to make you the manager. Well, I don't want that. Yeah, but you're the best we have. You'll like it. I wouldn't go down that road. You should be onboarding and developing your salespeople when they come to your company, so you have an idea on what they want to do in their career, and you're consistently having those conversations, and you have a development plan in place. Well, yes, this person does want to move into management. They see that as their future. They obviously moved into sales because they wanted the experience and they wanted to make some money, and et cetera, but they feel like their ultimate calling is management. Great. So how do we put that development plan together? Maybe you start with a mentorship, right? Maybe you start with a mentorship. You hire a new rep and you bring them in as a mentor, see how they perform. coach them on the training, get them the training and the development on the coaching, onboard them into the coaching and managing, build the program around that. It doesn't take a ton of work, but it's necessary. Don't just promote someone for the sake of promoting them. So one of the ways you can do it is a field supervisor. If you have a larger team, maybe you have a larger team, and you have what's called field supervisors. They have 2 or 3 reps, maybe 2 at the most. On the high end, 3, but most time it's 2 reps that they supervise, and they report back to the sales manager. This is a great way to train them and prepare them for becoming a manager. It's a slow burn, a slow process, and there's an onboarding and there's a coaching element, a little bit of money. I used to get blowback on that. Well, we're teaching them how to be a manager. That's worth something. You're also giving them more responsibility. Let's grow up here and pay an appropriate amount of money to be a field supervisor. People aren't going to work for free, regardless of what they're getting out of it. I think that's kind of silly. But maybe as a promotion tool, a development plan, mentor, field supervisor, then you move into the management role. And it might be a short-term management and selling role because you just can't afford to pay both. But don't just use it as a tool to say, I need to keep them. Let me just make them the manager. They'll be happier. No, they may not. It's a tough job. And without any training and development, it's even harder. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about promoting a sales rep to manager. And I know the whole story. Well, they promoted their top rep as the manager and they did lousy because they think it's the same thing. It equates. We all know that. So you definitely want to interview and go through the process of understanding their skill set and their abilities. And do they fit the profile of a manager? Can they be an effective manager for your company? If they can't, you need to be honest with them and say, look, this is not for you here. However, there's other development opportunities for you within this company to make more money and become an even more important integral part of what we're doing here. I don't want to get lost in the fact that we don't feel like that's a good choice for you. We still want you here. We still want to do good things with you. But I think you have an obligation, to be honest. And those companies that promote people just to keep them, you're killing yourself. It's a slow, painful death. Don't do it. Driving success. So when I talk about driving success, how do I put someone in the best possible position to succeed? So I promoted a sales rep to management, and I don't want to lose their revenue. And I give them a little bit of compensation. This is a tough role. So I need to work on the balance. I need to work on the time management with them. If you really want them succeeding, you just can't say 60% of your time is doing this and 40% of your time is doing that. That's a generalization. You need to really lay out, this is what we expect of you on the management side. This is what we expect of you on the sales side. This is how you're going to use your time. This is how you coach on a regular basis, your meetings, your pipeline reviews, and then your meetings back with me as the owner of the company, et cetera, to make sure that we're hitting all our targets. These are competing priorities. So we need to separate the two. We need to lock in the time, lock in the program, and address the problems one at a time as they come up, because they will. What happens when someone leaves and there's prime accounts open? Who decides who gets those accounts? You see where I'm going with this? You had a couple reps in there looking at the manager who has the territory saying, hey, they're cherry picking all the accounts. Well, that's a problem, because you're going to lose the respect of your team. And eventually, when they go into a full-time management role, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle with team members who don't like them. My suggestion is you take it out of their hands. Somebody leaves and there's accounts to be managed. We'll review those accounts together, and then I'm going to decide who gets what as the owner of the company. And we'll lay out the criteria. First, you have to be a quota, at or exceeding your quota. You have to be here within a certain amount of time. Can't be here 3 months and then get all these new accounts. If that's how you're going to do it. If you're going to replace, then somebody needs to cover those accounts until you hire somebody. And then you work through that. But you deal with the problems one at a time, and you anticipate potential issues that could come up and cause conflict of interest. You're not going to drive success unless you do those things. They need to have the time to work with their people. They also need to have the time to work on their own stuff. Make a clear delineation in how they spend their time and how they manage and coach. And their people need to know that. Yes, I'm there. You can email me and call me. I might not call you back right away. I might be in the middle of something. That's with any manager. But here's when we're going to meet. This is our weekly pipeline review. This is our weekly coaching session. This is our ride-alongs. Whatever it is that you're doing, this is how you lay it out for them so they can drive success with their team and they can drive success in their own sales territory. Okay, so let's talk about compensation alignment, because I think this is the biggest problem with a working sales manager. I'd say yes, the biggest, and then the second biggest would be the conflict of interest. They're completely two different jobs. They're competing priorities. You're always going to have that. But you can work through that with the time management, not dumping so much on them on either one. You can't give someone, a working sales manager, 15 salespeople. It won't work. You can't give them a full-blown territory plus and 8 salespeople. It won't work. Not enough time in a day. But you can work through those things. Compensation alignment can be the big enemy. It can be the big enemy in this process, and I'll tell you why. If they're paid like a normal sales rep, whatever the compensation plan lays out to be, they're going to act like a sales rep, because we all know compensation drives behavior. Works with salespeople, works with managers, especially the really good ones. They know exactly how to squeeze every nickel out of the company and hit their targets. Revenue, profit, quota, commission, bonus. They get it all. The other salespeople shouldn't be concerned that their manager is more focused or is completely focused on their territory and hitting their target because they need to make money, and management is a secondary thing. It's not fair to them. You want them to be a positive contributor, not only on the sales side, but a positive contributor on the management side, because a good sales manager, a good coaching sales manager is worth their weight in gold. So how do you reconcile the compensation issue? How do you reconcile what I'm supposed to pay? Most people don't even think about it. Well, you get your normal commission for sales, and then we're going to give you a bump in salary and a little bit of bonus for your team hitting their targets. And you start weighing okay, I'm going to get the salary regardless. That bonus opportunity, I can more than make up if I sell 15% more in my territory. Why would I give a damn about the sales reps? I've already got the salary in my back pocket. The bonus opportunity I can make up. It's a win-win. I'm getting paid extra money for not doing anything. You need to make the compensation plan friendly. Friendly to the team, friendly to the company. The reward should be higher for managing than selling. For example, you take the compensation and you tie it, their sales compensation, and tie it to team goals. You want to be a manager. We moved you into that role. This is how it works for managers. They get paid on what their contributors do. Okay, think about a football team. The players get paid for doing what they do very well. A wide receiver gets paid to catch balls. A quarterback gets paid to move the field, move the team down the field, hand it off, throw it, make the right calls at the line of scrimmage. The coach gets paid for everybody else doing their job and doing it well. That's the same with a manager. So your compensation plan needs to reflect that. They should be rewarded for the team goals. Their contribution to team goals helps, right? If the quota is X and they're a percentage of that, well, they have a responsibility to get to their numbers. I think you back off the size of the territory, the number of accounts. They don't have a full territory, but they have a percentage of that that's tied to the team goals. And if the team makes the money and the team hits the quota, the manager's compensated appropriately. Yes, you get a little bit for selling, but this keeps them focused on one thing and one thing only. Driving the company's objectives and the company's strategies, the team goals, not their own. Sales reps are paid to hit their number. Okay, yes, you're a team player and we all work together and we help each other. I get that. But at the end of the day, you're judged on performance, revenue and profit performance. The coach, the manager, is compensated on everybody else's performance. So never, never, never forget that. Keep that in mind when you're building a program for a working sales manager. Is it ideal? Nope. Is it a necessity sometimes because we don't have the budget or the money to have both? Yep. So think long and hard before you put somebody in that role. One, are they prepared for it? Have you interviewed for them? Can they do the job? If they can't, don't bother and tell them straight up. Find some other development opportunity. Two, build a development program, an onboarding program to move them into management. Don't just wave a magic wand. They're completely different jobs. They need to be developed and trained for that role. However you do it, mentor, supervisor, manager, or just move them into the management role, but you have an onboarding program, a coaching program. You're developing them to be a better manager. And then ultimately, when you're compensating them, your compensation needs to reflect the fact that their primary objective is to manage. Their secondary objective is to sell. They get a little bit for selling, but they're tied to the overall team number, monthly, quarterly, annually, and their bonuses. They have a good opportunity to make money, but they're focused on the team and the corporate objectives. It's that simple when building a working sales manager program. So if you can stay away from it, I would. I'd hire, I'd hire from within. If you interview and it works out and everything's great, or they've presented that, you've put them through a development program. I know everybody's concerned, well, if they're selling a lot for us, we're going to lose that revenue. Not if you're a good company, not if you hire good people and you onboard good people and you have a bench. So this all feeds into itself. You need a good hiring process, you need a good onboarding process, you need to bring people in to be successful. And part of the development plan for some folks is to move into management and replacing them in the field. It can be done. I've done it, and I've helped clients do it. The world doesn't end with one sales rep. That's what I would consider the big fraud in sales, that you can't live without the heavy hitter. BS. Give me a really good manager, they'll find the great reps, and they'll develop and train them and put them in place. And when they leave, they'll have one coming in right behind it. When you tie yourself to a single rep, you're held hostage. And all your decisions are based on that. And they're flawed because you're held hostage. So just keep all that in mind when you're thinking about hiring a sales manager or moving someone into a selling sales manager role. Again, subscribe to The Funnel, alignment-group.com/The Funnel. You can find us on Facebook. I'm on Twitter @ShayJohnR. We're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Google+. Send me your email, comments, questions, etc. jshay@alignment-group.com. And of course, our website, alignment-group.com. Thank you. I should say this. I should wait to say this. Thank you for subscribing. And as always, keep filling the funnel.